guys, it's Jordan, the DVD dude here. Now, the reason I've got this video of 5 films you've probably never heard of is because I believe that these 5 films are great movies, but the problem with them is that they're perhaps not as well known, or they just simply don't get as much screen time, or not as many people know about them as they should, basically. So I'm going to start off with films that are potentially more well known, and basically as the list goes on, we're sort of going to get to films that sort of become a bit more of a rarity in terms of they're not really that well known, or they're just simply films that have just fallen by the wayside. But nonetheless, I stand by each and every one of these movies, and I'll happily watch them any day of the week. So I'm going to kick this off with Point Break. Now, I know some of you may have, for whatever reason, you might not like Keanu Reeves, you might not like Patrick Swayze. Just cast that aside, because this is a fantastic film. I think it's seemingly more well known in America, and anyone sort of upwards of maybe around the 25 years old age mark, generally speaking, has some form of, they know about this film. And even if you don't, they're doing a reboot, so if they have to reboot this movie, it's either A, they think they can get enough money out of it, or B, they think, oh, people will come and see this because they'll remember the original, the first one, the good one. Now, for those of you that are not that well acquainted with the plot, it's just the plot is just to basically break it down without giving away too much spoilers or anything. The FBI believes that a group of surfers are basically making their way up and down the coast of America, robbing banks. And who do they send in to sort this mess out? The only FBI agent that can surf. Keanu Reeves, with his wet hair. Because I am an FBI agent. Sorry, it's just, anyone that knows this movie, that's just one of the standard quotes. But yeah, as the film goes on, Keanu Reeves starts to sort of get to know this group a lot more, and then you get this interesting sort of juxtaposition between Keanu's character's duty to the FBI, but also wanting to somehow start afresh in some ways, which I think really builds the tension between the two quite well. So yeah, Point Break, great film. If you haven't yet seen it, definitely do. Even if you maybe don't know this that well, if you've seen Hot Fuzz, it's what is referenced in Hot Fuzz. So just watch this film. So that's film number 1 out of the way and done. On to film number 2. This Face Off got Nicolas Cage and John Travolta. Sorry, I'm just playing this movie in my head, and it just cracks me up, because it's such a crazy premise of Nicolas Cage effectively playing a terrorist, and John Travolta playing this character who has to track down this terrorist. Pretty basic outline there. However, in a series of unfortunate events or so, they end up swapping faces. Now, the way in which this is acted, I genuinely bought into this premise, because you get to see Nicolas Cage trying to be semi-serious by being John Travolta, well, John Travolta's character, should I say. So you get Nicolas Cage basically being like this straight, hard-edged guy who really wants to capture this terrorist. But then on the flip side of that, you get to see John Travolta acting like Nicolas Cage. He just gets to be mental, basically, for this entire film, which is just why this film is in the list, because it is just... If you haven't heard this movie, watch it. And if you want a fun movie, but is also a film that you can somewhat enjoy, definitely check this out, because it is fantastic. And now we're about halfway through, so we're going to go for 7 Psychopaths. Now, this is from the same director that made In Bruges, so if you've seen In Bruges, you get somewhat of a stylistic continuation in this movie. It's black comedy, so, you know, people are going to get shot, you're going to laugh, gruesome things are going to happen, maybe not as graphic, but you're still going to get, like, a guy who's just going to... Anyway, I'm rambling. Point is, this movie follows Colin Farrell's character, who is trying to write a movie called 7 Psychopaths, hence the title. But he's also got this friend who's played by Sam Rockwell, played by his friend Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell's character is Colin Farrell's character's best friend, and they do quite a lot of things together. And similarly, and furthermore, you've got Christopher Walken in this movie, and you've got Woody Harrelson in this movie. And the way in which it plays out is effectively, throughout the film, Colin Farrell's trying to get this movie written, and he's really having a tough time of it. But as the film goes on, he starts building it up bit by bit by bit. But simultaneously, you've got this whole thing that spirals out of control from Sam Rockwell and Christopher Walken's little side business, where effectively they return lost dogs. For those of you that didn't feel the sarcasm, it's basically they kidnap people's dogs, they give them back to the owner, they get the cash reward, no one gets hurt, they make a quick buck, job done. But this all spirals out of control when they kidnap the wrong guy's dog, and this wrong guy is played by Woody Harrelson. So throughout the film you get this really you get sort of two running plots that sort of coexisting, because you have the core of Colin Farrell trying to get this movie made, but then you've also got all these other fantastical just parts, like Sam Rockwell, Christopher Walken, Woody Harrelson, that are all culminating and drifting in and out of this core of him trying to get this movie made. So in a sense it becomes, in basic terms, a film about a guy trying to make a film, but at the same time it's so much more than that. And I really can't sing the praises of this movie enough, because when I watched it I cried, because some of the scenes in it are so sort of intense between these characters, and they might not even be doing it, they might just be talking, and Christopher Walken might be reminiscing of something, but you just get so engrossed in it that you can't help but love this film. So, like I say, if you like In Bruges, chances are you'll like this movie. If you don't have a clue at all, don't go into this movie expecting there to be lots of violence. Expect a film that's it's a film that you've got to pay attention, really, because you've got to see what's going on, you've got to take in all the aspects of dialogue, but at the same time you do get those lovely random just outbursts. And Christopher Walken, man, I can't do a Christopher Walken impression anymore because I suck. I'm sorry. Sorry, I just had a flashback to that Fatboy Slim music video. Anyway, on to a foreign film that I'm pretty much going to guarantee most of you have probably never heard of. The Good, the Bad, the Weird. Now this is, from what I gather, I think it's a Korean movie. I'll fact check this, and if it's wrong then I'll just edit this bit out, so you won't even see this bit. But yeah, the reason why I get a bit confused is just because there's Chinese, there's Japanese, and there's Korean all in this film. There's like a three-sided, almost like faction v faction thing kicking off throughout the film. But yeah, effectively you have the Good, who's effectively like this typical cowboy style character. You have the Bad, who's played by the same actor who I believe plays I can't remember, but he's the ninja in G.I. Joe, the bad ninja. Yeah, and then you have the Weird, who just seems to be this guy who's just chilling out. And this film revolves around this. There is a map basically that leads to a treasure. They don't know what the treasure is. However, they just think, oh, I get the treasure map, I'll go to the treasure, I'll be filthy rich. So it all sort of spirals off from this train robbery in which the bad guy's trying to hijack the train, get the map, and go off. I think he's trying to. I think it's just a contract that he's sent on to do it. I don't think he's acting out of self-interest in this at all. But effectively, during this guy, the Weird guy, gets roped up in it, and similarly, the Good guy is also trying to get the map for more selfless reasons, shall we say. Now, I don't want to give you too much of this film, just because it is something that you really have to experience, in my opinion, because when I first watched this movie, I had no clue. I just thought, it looks crazy, and it'll be great. Just watch a crazy film, and it'll be just. But yeah, I don't think this film has a dubbed track on it. I'm not 100% sure, but watching this film with subtitles, it hits the tone so well. Like, it dances around this great sort of go-between it being a serious movie and a comedy, and you just get little instances just playing back and forth between it all, especially when the Good character and the Weird character have their little sort of dialogue moments of them together. It's just, the actors play off each other so well in this movie, and there are quite a few good twists in this film, and the characters are really well developed, and I really love this film. And it's crazy because I don't really venture into foreign films that much, but this has just completely changed my perspective on that. So yeah, if you ever get the chance to see this movie, see if you can pick up the DVD for pretty cheap, then please do so. I recommend this, along with all the other films. So now, we come to the final film, which is Blown Away. Now this stars Jeff Bridges and Tommy Lee Jones, and thinking about it now, it is quite similar to Face Off in that you have a terrorist, played by Tommy Lee Jones, and you have the sort of straight-edged good guy who's, he's got some trouble in his past, but he's a straight shooter, played by Jeff Bridges. Now, this film basically goes from Tommy Lee Jones being a terrorist who was a part of the IRA, and he basically he escapes from prison. Tommy Lee Jones escapes from prison and begins hunting down certain people, and he starts planting bombs places, and basically causing a lot of civil unrest, effectively. And Jeff Bridges is sort of somewhat the guy who has to track him down. And you get this great backdrop of sort of like 1970s Ireland, where you've got people from, you've got like the IRA, I think there's a few instances of like stock footage used of sort of that time period, so you do get a good sense of where this film sits historically, even though it's a fictional tale somewhat. But you get as well these two fantastic actors playing off each other exceptionally well. Like, you know, when sometimes actors do an accent, you don't necessarily buy into it, and you think, oh god, this is so cheesy, why are you trying to do this, you can't do this accent, you know, sort of similar to my impressions earlier. But yeah, his accent, his Irish accent, is surprisingly believable. I mean, of course, it's hammed up in places, purely because if you try and say things in a different accent the same way you would say it normally with your regular inflections, it sometimes just doesn't come out right. And that's just from my experience of language, because I've learned bits of German and Chinese, so I definitely understand how difficult it can be in order to really nail down on a dialect. But yeah, he's really good in this film. Jeff Bridges, he's sort of, it's comfortable for him in this film. Like you don't necessarily dislike it, but you're not necessarily going to be raving about, oh, he was fantastic in this movie. No, the spotlight is pretty much on Tommy Lee Jones. However, you do become emotionally invested in Jeff Bridges' character, and in that respect it's a safe performance, because you just think, yeah, that is exactly what I wanted from this portrayal of the character. So yeah, that is 5 films that you probably haven't heard of. I hope you liked this video. If you did, just give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, give me a thumbs down. But yeah, please subscribe. If you have any recommendations of films or DVDs that you'd like me to review, I would greatly take those on board. So, you know, please leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys around. Bye.